An achiever with ADHD is a really interesting combination
Yeah.
because we can get a lot of things done, but we get so much done that we then can't sustain it and we burn out.
Yeah.
At the time, I had 3 kids, and all of a sudden, I just felt like my body and brain broke.
My kids like to joke that ADHD stands for attention deficit. Hey, donut. And that's pretty much the essence of what we're going to talk about today. How ADHD affects your marital relationship, especially your sexual relationship. The CDC in America says that about 6% of adults have diagnosed ADHD, but the actual number might be a lot higher than that because it is often undiagnosed. If you're in a marriage where either you or your spouse tend to have hyper focus on one thing, like a lot of interest, and then lose interest, especially with sexual desire, they're like really into it sometimes and then totally absent of desire other times, it could be a sign of a brain that's in ADHD mode. My guest today is Kamden. She is an expert on all things marriage and ADHD. She's a fantastic guest. We're going to learn a lot together. We're going to talk about the superpowers of ADHD and how it can benefit a marriage, such as the creativity that can come from that kind of a brain. Also talk about some of the liabilities, such as the constant need for novelty, hyper rejection sensitivity, and how ADHD can amplify other existing issues in the marriage. But overall, you're going to hear about her journey, how she learned about ADHD herself, and how she's used it to help and build a great sexual relationship with her spouse. And be sure to stay to the end for her black belt sex tip. Now, this is a special episode to me because anyone that knows me really well is probably not surprised that I myself was diagnosed with ADHD a year ago, and that diagnosis has changed my life for the good. So I hope whoever's out there who's like me or like my guest Kamden in a sexual relationship that wants something great and better, this episode is for you. All right, let's get into this interview with Kamden where we talk more about ADHD and sex. Hey, Kamden, welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. How are you today?
So good. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, Dan.
Great. Hey, before we begin, we're going to talk about ADHD and how it impacts sexual relationships. But is there a story or a time that you can tell me about when you and your husband, maybe how the ADHD played out and maybe it was a good thing because of what happened?
Well, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I am like the higher desire partner in my
Uh-huh.
marriage, and
Mhm.
I actually didn't find out I had ADHD until I was 36.
All right. All right.
And
So
I'm
adult onset
yeah.
or whatever to say, right? Uh-huh.
Yeah, just that we don't find out about our brain operating system until later.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I was married at 24,
Uh-huh.
and so I am like such a sucker for novelty.
Uh-huh.
And some people would say impulsivity, but I just like spontaneity.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And so I remember early on, we decided to go camping
Mhm.
and we're like, let's make love in the tent. But then that wasn't,
Novel enough.
novel enough. I was like, no, there's not very many people out here. Let's see if we can go make love in the middle of the forest,
Yeah,
right?
no tent, right.
No, no
Uh-huh.
tent. No,
Under
it's
the
it's
stars.
it's
Uh-huh.
too, it's too private.
Right.
And so we did. We found a spot and we're able to make love in the forest. And so we kind of came up with this little song that now I'm going to give myself away, but it was making love in the forest, this little melody.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And it's very public now, but this inside joke that we can always tie to a really fun,
Uh-huh,
spontaneous,
uh-huh,
playful time that we had together,
uh-huh.
whether we're with our kids or we're with friends or whatever. We just hum,
I love that. Uh-huh.
and yeah, it brings us back to a fun, carefree time.
That's cool.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
you're 36 years old, diagnosed with ADHD. What was that like? That
Amazing.
information. Is that like a revelation? Like,
It
this
really was.
explains so much.
Yeah, it really was. I had reached like burnout. I'd
Yeah.
been working in entrepreneurship for about a year, really, really intensely.
Uh-huh.
And if you follow the Enneagram at all, I'm an Enneagram
Yes.
3.
All right, all
I'm
right.
the
Uh-huh,
achiever.
uh-huh.
So an achiever with ADHD is a really interesting combination
Yeah,
because we can get a lot of things done, but we get so much done that we then can't sustain it and we burn out.
yeah.
At the time, I had 3 kids, and all of a sudden I just felt like my body and brain broke.
Uh-huh.
It was I didn't have words for it. And
Uh-huh.
so I actually went to prayer and went to worship
Uh-huh.
and decided that is where I was gonna get a little bit of insight as to what on earth was going on. I was seeking peace,
Right.
and in an answer to my prayer, clear as day, and you
Uh-huh.
have to remember ADHD was the farthest thing from my mind, right? I was
Right.
thinking of my kids, my family,
Uh-huh.
survival, my business, all these things. It just ADHD, like, just, like, as clear as day in my mind's eye,
Uh-huh.
those 4 letters, and so I was like, "What?" I was a classroom teacher, I had kids with ADHD, my daughter had been diagnosed, and I'll tell you that she's adopted, and that's important because there is a biological tie,
There
but that
is.
wouldn't have been, you
Uh-huh.
know, as important or as relevant at that
Right.
point.
Mhm.
And so I went home and I started to research about ADHD, and my whole
Uh-huh.
life started making sense.
Yeah.
And so for me at 36 with these 3 kids hitting burnout and then seeing myself more clearly was this relief that I cannot describe. And that's not everyone else's experience per
Uh-huh.
se. It is
Mhm.
many people's experience. They finally can, you know, put a point on what actually was happening, but it was mine. And because I am that 3 personality, tend to be more,
Mhm.
it was like, "All right, it's go time. Like,
Uh-huh.
let's dive in. Let's figure out what this means." And there
Yeah,
was some
all in
grief.
on the ADHD research,
Yeah,
right, in
yeah.
true ADHD person fashion.
Yes, exactly.
Great.
Hyper focus.
Yeah.
We're gonna do all the things
Uh-huh,
and,
uh-huh.
um, but yeah, and then I felt called to advocate. So I was lucky. I was lucky to be able to advocate for the thing that actually helps me a ton and my family and my relationships a ton. There was grief associated with some stuff too, like what would life have been like
Yeah.
had I
Had I known
known?
this sooner, if I could get treatment sooner, right.
In the '90s when I was growing up, it wouldn't have been great. It wouldn't have been there wasn't a whole ton of support. So
Mhm.
once I kind of grappled with that and had acceptance with that, I was more okay with it. That my mom did amazing, my dad did amazing as much as they could. They were such great supports to me. And now I get the rest of my life with this additional information.
That's good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the ADHD brain and how it's different than a what do you call a normal brain?
Sure. Yeah, typical.
As if there's such thing as a normal
Yeah.
brain, right?
Yeah, or it's yeah, neurotypical is what they say, but we're like,
Uh-huh.
"What is typical,
Right, right.
really?"
How do you define that? I guess if you look at then a large swath of the population,
Yes.
you create a bell curve, right? And you call the center part normal or
Yeah,
typical. ADHD has some very things that are unique about it. Let's talk about that.
sure. Uh, and I would like to say too with that, that our society, especially in North America, is set up more for that typical brain.
Yeah.
That's what I think also makes it very typical. Hunters and gatherers times, right? It
Uh-huh.
was like, no, they're the hunter type. They go fulfill this role. But as we're all needing to show up to like work and doctor's appointments and
Uh-huh. Follow a
it
schedule.
it
Uh-huh.
makes it more typical in that respect too.
Yeah.
Um, the prefrontal cortex of someone with ADHD scientifically is considered underdeveloped.
Okay.
Not my favorite to
Uh-huh.
say that. But essentially, it is in its organization and how it is utilized and the pathways that it takes and the balance of dopamine or other neurotransmitters.
Mhm.
All of that is regulated very differently than what we would call a typical brain.
Gotcha.
And that prefrontal cortex is responsible for all of this higher level thinking and operating system and executive functioning. And so that's why you see behaviors like being late sometimes or forgetfulness
Mhm.
or impulsive talking. There's no filter between the thinking and the talking, or being very fidgety, uh, having to be on the go and on the move all the time, difficulty pausing. That's why things that appear very simple, like making a phone call to a doctor,
Uh-huh.
are extremely difficult for us because our body doesn't regulate the step by step nature. It sees big picture, but it
Uh-huh.
doesn't give us the step by step nature as to how to fulfill that bigger picture.
Right.
So we feel a lot of overwhelm, etc.
You say it gives you the big picture, whereas there also the opposite extreme too, where all you see is the micro.
Yeah.
and you kind of fixate on that and you miss the big picture too?
So, because of the dysregulation, especially if we're thinking of emotions in particular, if there's a trigger, if there's any trauma, if there is a hyper focus on something that we're really interested in, it becomes very difficult to, number one, break away from
Mhm.
that thing because that's very crunchy. That transition away from something feels like death. It just feels
Yeah.
terrible.
So expensive. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes,
Right.
precisely. Yeah, the cost is great.
Yeah.
In addition to that, um, if there is normal trauma,
Sure. Uh-huh.
okay, if we experience a trigger, the regulatory system in our body, in our nervous system, and a typical person would say, "Brr, brr, brr," like time to like
Uh-huh.
start to regulate the body, and ours does that very, very differently.
Uh-huh.
So on one hand, that's why you get like really amped up athletes and creative minds that are artists and can like throw like massive amounts of energy and passion into things.
Mhm.
That's also why it's really difficult for us to pull away when we've been harmed or hurt or we don't feel safe or we feel like our trust has been betrayed because it feels equally as huge for us. And so it's harder to see
Yeah.
the big
Yeah.
picture. Yeah.
So, what's it like for the normal brain person to be
Mhm.
married to an ADHD person?
Yeah, that's so
Let's
we
talk
should
about
get my
that. Yeah.
husband in here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh-huh. What
Yeah.
would he say it's like being married to someone with
Oh,
ADHD?
it's bliss. I mean, it's
The creative, the good looking, of course. What's more
Oh. Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I was going to bring this book up. If you're familiar with ADHD After Dark by Ari Tuckman, he did a full survey and study based upon this particular situation,
Great.
neurotypical and ADHD. So he didn't do anything with ADHD. All of his partnerships were one is
Yeah.
and one isn't.
Got it.
Okay.
It's that pairing, right?
Yeah. So there's actual research in that one, which is interesting. But what would my husband say? Yeah, you got to learn some flexibility really fast.
Uh-huh.
If you're married to someone with ADHD, rigidity is a sure way to create contention
Mhm.
and misunderstanding. I would say that's on the negative side. We can keep going there. I would also say he would say it's really exciting that
Mhm.
we pull people in outside of their comfort zone and we can show them that they're safe even outside of their zone of tolerance.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That there's freedom and joyfulness and spontaneity and inflexibility. Our daughters, two of our daughters also have ADHD, and so I think that plays into all of this as well,
Mhm.
parenting kids with ADHD and being parents together as
Mhm.
partners. I know that's not what we're talking about today, but I think that there's a really beautiful yin to the yang in a neurotypical and a ADHD or neurodivergent brain. And when you can hold on to yourself
Uh-huh.
and allow your partner to hold on to themselves and then know how to come together with that beautiful harmony, it it's magical. It can be vibrant and beautiful. Learning how to get there.
That
And
that's the quest of a lifetime,
yes,
yes.
it
Uh-huh.
is. It is. It is a quest of a lifetime. And I believe that the more that we can come to know and be less delusional about who we are as people, as
Mhm.
individuals, I don't say faster the progress, but the deeper the growth and the more patience we have with each other. That's kind of a deep answer.
I
I can
like
give you
that.
sillier answers, but
I like that answer.
yeah.
Good. So, Camden, I see this in my Facebook group sometimes, and people tell me, like, "Ah, my wife has ADHD. We're in the middle of making love, and she talks about holiday plans." Something
Bless her
completely
heart.
unrelated. It's like, if only she didn't have ADHD, we'd have a better sex life.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's a really relatable and funny idea.
Uh-huh.
Not necessarily even for me,
Uh-huh.
but even with me, I think as women, we also just have a lot on our plate.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to, like, differentiate. It's not so much of an on-off switch, right? It's
Right,
that
right.
that glow on back and
Uh-huh.
forth, the sunrise sunset effect. So, yeah, maybe the sun's barely coming out and she's like, "Oh, shoot, you know, forgot." What would I say to that? I would say, well, in this book, he talks about that. He talks about that even women with ADHD, they are more likely than men with ADHD to have wandering thoughts during sex. That
Right.
is so yes, research points to that.
Yes.
Um,
But it happens anyway. Of the two sexes, generally speaking,
Generally speaking.
women's minds will wander more.
And
Is it
also
just that
that's
yeah.
also part of the inattentive side of ADHD. So there's 3
Uh-huh.
different. There's ADHD hyperactive, ADHD inattentive, ADHD combined.
Uh-huh.
And generally speaking, once again, nuanced, women tend to have more of the inattentive. That's why we weren't caught when we were in
In
elementary
elementary school.
school
Right.
bouncing off the walls, right? So it would make sense that this would come up in your Facebook group for sure.
Uh-huh.
Are
Uh-huh.
you curious about solutions or I'm here to like say, yeah, that's
I'm
probably
just curious
happening.
that I this is my hypothesis
Yeah.
is ADHD might amplify
Yeah.
problems, but it doesn't mean that's the cause of the problem. Like,
No. No, not at all.
that's
Yeah, it's not a curse. It certainly has its distractions
mhm,
and it can have its downsides. But just like anything else, when we get to know that that's a part of our existence, we no longer have to fear it or have shame around it. We just say hello to it when it pops up, and
uh-huh,
then we can decide what we're going to do with that. I usually tell my clients, it's like you just kind of place a red flag, and that
uh-huh,
sounds even extreme for here, but you just kind of place it and say, oh, I did that thing again. What do I want to do here?
right,
And a lot of the time when we pre-decide, with our spouse or with our
uh-huh,
partner what we're gonna do in those situations, then we don't have to worry about the shame and the embarrassment and the guilt, right? We
uh-huh.
can get back on track. But at the same time, can't that wandering brain also play into more play
Oh, yeah,
and
uh-huh,
spontaneity and fun and just honesty? Like, "Nope, this isn't working. This isn't
yeah,
working for me," right?
uh-huh.
I think it's when we're trying to take care of our partner's emotions in
In
that.
sex, especially in sex, yeah,
Yes, while we're doing it, we when we can trust that they can take whatever we need to express. I'm so
uh-huh,
sorry, I am so distracted right now. Can we For me, often it's, "Can we please turn on a soundtrack?"
uh-huh,
Or, "Can we do something else?" I have to, like, have something to distract the rambunctious part of my brain so
yeah,
that I can be present with you.
mhm.
And honestly, that's when I'm writing newsletters. That's when I'm doing a lot of things that require all of my attention. And so I think that that's just like a beautiful starting place of communication of how to make this work better.
That's good, that's good. Let me tell you about two great events that we have coming up. First is Valentine's Day. I've got it all planned for you. You can just check it off. All you need to do is go to getyourmarriageon.com/events, and you're going to see that we are hosting a getaway. This is where you can send your kids to grandma's house or book a hotel room, and you join Emily and I live as we walk you through a fun sexual practice that I promise you, no matter if you're a newlywed or been married for 50, 60 years, you're going to learn something new and profound. It's about transforming sex into love making. We've revamped our content. This is new for 2026. It's going to be a great experience for you and your spouse. All those details are on our website, like I shared with you. And if you can't attend live, you can register anyway and get a copy of the recordings, which are valid for 90 days thereafter. The second great thing I want to tell you about is we are doing our first ever Get Your Marriage On cruise, and we have a few spots left. This is different than our in-person retreats that we do, which we've sold out of. The cruise is going to do a deeper focus on erotic play, getting deeper together, more intimate, more sexual freedom and play within the bounds of your marriage. And we'll do a deep dive on that while we're at sea. We're jokingly calling this as intimacy, spelled SEA. And it's a 6-night Western Caribbean cruise. It's going to be fantastic. We sail out of Galveston, Texas in October. You'll find those details also on our website, getyourmarriageon.com/events. What about some other typical problems that couples face and how ADHD kind of impacts that? Let's say one person just takes it really hard when they feel rejected.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, in particular, if that person has ADHD, there is something called rejection sensitivity.
Mhm.
And Dobson is one of the doctors that coined the term rejection sensitive dysphoria
Okay.
or RSD. You
Mhm.
might hear about that. And essentially, nobody likes to feel rejected, okay? It's
Nobody
not
does.
it's not like a lovely, heartwarming feeling, but if you can take that and multiply it by 10,000,
Uh-huh.
okay? This experience for people with ADHD is head to toe, nauseating, somatically sickening, feels
Mhm.
like you've been punched in the gut or the groin.
Yeah.
It just feels terrible.
Mhm.
Our body wants to keep us as far away from that feeling as possible.
Right, right.
And in intimacy and in sex, what are we? We're
We're
asking
vulnerable.
for the most vulnerable situation as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. And everything leading up to that as well. If we are, turning on the flame early, okay,
Uh-huh.
as we should, please.
Uh-huh.
Okay. If we're doing that and then we know what that might mean, then it's asking us to be vulnerable. All of these defenses will start to come up. And a lot of the time it's subconscious. If you don't know that this is part of your ADHD, you're going to think that you're just broken or
Mhm.
that you have this adverse reaction to intimacy and sex, when really it could be a symptom of your ADHD that can be managed and that is completely separate from your personality, from your worth. It is literally how your brain is wired to keep you safe, or it thinks it's keeping you safe. Okay,
Gotcha.
perceived threat. That is something that I don't know if anyone who doesn't have ADHD could experience the way that we have. And it is very, very real.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Great. Let's talk about the crave for novelty in the
Yeah.
ADHD brain
Oh, man.
when it comes to sex
Yes,
specifically.
of course. Well, you have your typical way of showing up intimately, and you
Uh-huh.
go through the same motions, and I, we call this the step touch, right? It's like
Yeah, yeah.
basic, just step
Uh-huh. Go
touching
ahead.
back and forth.
Yep. Uh-huh.
That we know it's predictable. There's some kind of safety in that because of what we
Uh-huh.
just said, because
Right.
of the RSD, because of it's like predictable, it's manageable, it's expected, and then it's done, right?
Uh-huh.
And that part can, for people that don't want more depth in intimacy and sex, that might feel just fine
Uh-huh.
with ADHD until it's not anymore.
Right.
Until you now become so bored by it
Mhm.
that it no longer takes any priority.
Gotcha. So the pendulum swings to their side
Yeah.
almost. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because this diagnosis also points to an interest-driven brain.
Yes.
We don't do anything or engage in anything that isn't interesting to us.
Right.
Boredom is death.
Uh-huh.
It feels terrible.
Uh-huh.
People get labeled as lazy a lot of the time, but I want to say very clearly, our brain does not function when boredom is the fuel.
Yes, it won't. No.
Most of my work as an ADHD coach is to help people learn how to function and tolerate boredom, because right at the end of boredom is genius, is creativity, is novelty, is where we find our hyper focus. If we can tolerate it for just long enough,
Uh-huh.
we will then find our genius.
Okay.
And so, but out of box programming, this is what I'm talking about. ADHD out of box programming, it will work until it's not. And in sexuality with novelty, that's how we can shake things up a little bit, right?
Uh-huh.
Trust obviously has to be a big part of this.
Right.
Safety has to be a big part of this, communication, all the things that you teach on your podcast. Uh, and this is where you're going to do some really fun things. This is like you talked about the partnership before. So if you have a higher desire partner with ADHD, you can expect to have a lot of fun. And
Uh-huh.
but also if your neurotypical partner doesn't have ADHD,
Uh-huh.
now you're pushing two things. Okay? Lower desire as
Mhm.
well as they don't have the same need for novelty.
Yeah.
And so that dissonance can maybe sometimes feel very, very challenging.
Right.
And that's okay. That's
Mhm.
that's marriage, but it might help to understand. So, do you want examples of novelty? You talk
Yeah.
about this all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Give
So,
us some examples.
I mean, you know all these things. Music and fragrances and toys and hey, I downloaded your 101, what is it?
I have 2 of them. 101, like, creative ways to initiate sex.
Was
Does it
it
have a
initiation? I think it may have been that. Yeah.
okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I downloaded those were so fun to read through
Uh-huh.
with my husband. We read through them in the line at Disneyland.
Uh-huh.
We decided to this is novelty, to not tell our kids. I'm from San Diego. We got babysitters, my family members,
Uh-huh.
and we took off.
Uh-huh.
And we had a
There's just
secret
the 2 of
getaway,
you at Disneyland.
just the 2 of us,
Uh-huh.
okay? And the second half of the day, I put lingerie on underneath my
Uh-huh.
clothes,
Uh-huh.
and he knew it,
Uh-huh.
but I just looked like
But no
normal,
one else
right?
knew it.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
no one else knew it.
Uh-huh.
There's the novelty, there's the fun, there's the playing,
Yeah.
right? So
Uh-huh.
it's the spontaneity of doing something like that.
Mhm.
It's the spicing it up a little bit. It's the
Yep.
reading the things and lying for the haunted mansion together,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
It's none of these things. My husband would never, he's it's just not his way.
Uh-huh.
But was he benefiting? Was it still fun? Was it still connecting? It was probably we've been to Sweden, we've been to Peru, we've done lots of things, but that one day at Disneyland, because it was so intentional on following the playfulness,
Mhm.
was so good for us. And thankfully, it's not just good for us, it's for a lot of people. But we've done a lot of work as well to have that trust in our relationship. He's grown a great deal. I've grown a great deal. The communication, the understanding of each other is essential to this.
That's great.
I'm just listing kind of like the normal ones. There's so much more, I'm kind of being superficial with a lot of these things, but keep listening to his podcast. He has lots of
That's
great
great. That's
ideas.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe novelty is really important because you wanna keep your marriage vital
Yeah.
over the long haul. I think it is a mistake, though. I think in the ADHD brain, sometimes I've seen an intense hyper focus on the thing they're not getting.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Can you talk on that a little bit?
Absolutely.
Like,
Um,
as you think, let me give you a story.
yeah,
Like a person I've coached just really wants oral sex as part of their
comes
marriage.
up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Mhm.
not into that. But
Yeah.
it's like the thing he can't have now becomes almost obsessive. Like
Yes.
it's the measure of the marriage now. It's the measure of their intimacy. It's
Yeah.
like it becomes a yardstick for everything. But it's really difficult to like zoom out of that sometimes when you're in it.
It sure is. Yeah. I'm gonna speak through the context of ADHD. And it's probably gonna be not much different than what you're saying, but with an ADHD heart here, that when we want something, it is very difficult to break away from it.
Mhm.
I have a 4-year-old,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and I was just picking her up from, preschool today, and her teacher said, "What do you do with her big feelings?" And when we think about the underdevelopment of the prefrontal cortex,
Uh-huh,
okay, and the inability, uh, the dysregulation, there's
uh-huh.
still ability, but it takes some coaching and patience, okay,
Yep.
to regulate and prioritize.
Mhm.
This then is catastrophized.
Right. Yes.
This then, like you're saying, becomes everything, and that absolutely makes sense with an ADHD brain. Because now the entire future of his life as he knew it, there's some grief attached to it. There's some extreme worry and concern and maybe even disillusionment of what he thought marriage would be.
Uh-huh,
And having to catch up with that is like going at the speed of light of where his brain is taking him.
uh-huh.
I think you said it was a guy.
Yeah.
It's taking him just so far down there when really we're still working here at like, I wanted to be the line leader,
Uh-huh.
right? Like
Uh-huh.
it's still very, very basic, but it feels huge,
Right.
huge, huge, huge. But just like my 4-year-old, it's the line leader.
Yeah.
Gonna be okay. You still have a lot of marriage left. And if you're still focused on the line leader, you're not gonna partake in the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s and all these things that are gonna make you a more dynamic leader.
Mhm.
And when we have dynamic leaders and people we can trust and people we can love on, guess what ends up happening? Progress.
Yeah.
And maybe that progress is gonna be a million times better than anything you could get in your mind as oral sex. And maybe it will lead to that one day, but you're now not as interested in that because you've gotten a hold of yourself. you realize, okay, I don't have to be the line leader today
Uh-huh.
because I'm so much more than a line
Then,
leader in this relationship. Sorry, there was, and that's one of an ADHD thing is we will just have parallels till we're blue in the face.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's a great parallel too. Very good. What if you're the lower desire spouse with ADHD? How does that amplify common problems that couples typically face in their marriage?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up because just because we have ADHD doesn't automatically mean we're like always the higher desire or like
Right, right. Want to
the
go have
party
sex on the roof
planner
or whatever, right?
all the
Uh-huh.
time.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, a lot of time in my clientele, I will find that women in their 50s, 45 to 50s and older
Uh-huh.
are oftentimes the lower desire partner and have ADHD
Uh-huh.
and sexuality in general.
Right.
Okay. So just understanding their own sexuality and their own worthiness and their own arousal is a problem. It's a big
Uh-huh.
challenge, not a problem, but it's a challenge for them. And then oftentimes, if they have a partner who doesn't have ADHD, who's a higher desire, we'll just say, and is asking for more sex than they are comfortable with, we
Uh-huh.
will end up having that conversation as to how can I help him to understand or uh, what do I do
Right.
essentially?
Mhm.
Because for many of them, they could fall into people pleasing tendencies. And then what happens is resentment builds up and they want to distance themselves and they're buffering and they're avoidant. And then they're not avoiding only in sex. Now they're avoidant in all their relationship with their partner.
Right.
They're unwilling to face that hard confrontation because of what we were talking about with
Uh-huh.
rejection sensitivity. That's going to feel bad. And so they end up living out of alignment with who they are. And then they end up not knowing who they are because they don't feel like that person has a voice. Their lower desire isn't okay. And when we just learn that it's once again just another programming in the
Mhm.
body and that low desire doesn't mean no desire.
Uh-huh.
Also, well, in menopause, perimenopause, that happens a lot with the clients I also work with.
Right.
That can be disturbing and frustrating in a relationship. And even if you're in your early 20s and you're listening to this or whatever it is, if you are the lower desire with ADHD, there's no problem. Okay.
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
it's not a problem. Once again, like we've been saying, there are so many workarounds when you understand things about yourself. Where is your fear? Where is your arousal? Have you learned about what is, arousing for you and what your desired intimacy is and how you like to be seen and talked to and touched? Have you even learned that about yourself yet? When you can bring those things to your partner, to your spouse, it's going to be a much more educated experience. Last thing, when we think of a lower desire with ADHD
Mhm.
and the goal is sex.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so number 1, interest-driven brain. We've already talked about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Interest-driven brain. When there's no interest, we have to create interest.
Right.
So we create interest by gamifying.
Uh-huh.
We
Uh-huh.
create interest by a slow burn. We create interest by connection in other ways.
Uh-huh.
So that foreplay plays out for a lot longer and is a lot more necessary, not just for the lower desire, but also for the ADHD brain that has to have a little bit of desire. We're
Yeah,
interest
yeah, yeah.
driven.
Right, right.
So it all plays into it. The more that you understand your own flavor of ADHD, the greater you're going to understand desire, intimacy, and
That's
sexual
good.
relationships.
So again, it comes back to acceptance is vitamin A, as I like to say,
Always.
right?
Yeah. Oh, I
Right?
love that.
Accept
Yeah.
it, like,
Yeah.
which like ties into being more honest with yourself there. And if you find yourself like just accommodating your spouse to make him happy or her happy,
Her happy either way.
with
Mhm.
yeah, or just avoiding, like, this is a warning that you probably need to step into
Yeah.
a little more
I have to go to the
honesty.
grocery store all of a sudden. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right, right, right.
Yeah.
It could also be that you have low interest in sex because, frankly, the kind of sex you're having isn't fulfilling. And you might need to bring that more honest to the table too. Like, and I'm not talking about sex positions or behavior. I mean, it
No.
might be that, but it's like the meanings tied to it aren't meanings that interest you. If it's all about just checking off a box, that's not going to be, if it's tied to boredom, it's not going to
No
interest
way.
you either. So you might just be having bad sex.
Yeah.
once
That's
you
for
start
myself
having
too.
good
I was gonna
sex.
say there's so many more
Yes.
options other
Right.
than what your high desire is offering you.
Yes,
Don't
exactly.
don't be afraid to go read another recipe book, okay? Like,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to take a look at other options that could be very arousing and exciting to you, okay?
Mhm.
There and I think a lot of that comes from, even if you're having to overcome some past thoughts about what makes you a good girl or a good boy or, whatever it might be, you're gonna have to overcome some of that, but that's the life work, right?
Yeah,
For
right.
connection.
Right,
Yeah,
right. I've never met a couple who have a great sex life who are also not pushing themselves as an individual to
yeah,
grow in some
good.
area or another. Growth and that eros energy
Yeah, I love
come
the
hand in
arrows.
hand. They go together.
Yes, that's right. Yep,
Camden, one thing I've really appreciated about this conversation is I'm learning that ADHD doesn't have to be like a bug, it can be a feature. There
love
can be
that.
tremendous amount of strength and goodness and power that comes from being married to someone, or if you yourself is the ADHD partner in the marriage,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to the sexual relationship. Any other thoughts as we close about this very idea of how it doesn't have to be a weakness, it can be a strength, or how you've seen it in your own marriage or other marriages, how it's become a strength?
Whenever you're willing to look at yourself honestly and truthfully,
Uh-huh.
you're going to progress.
Always.
Um,
Absolutely.
and so there are some people with ADHD who will deny how the ADHD is impacting them for the rest of their life.
Uh-huh.
And so I can't help them, right?
Right.
They can't
Right.
help themselves. But as soon as you are willing to hold on to your own diagnosis,
Mhm.
and have a partner who understands and is willing to put time into seeing their ADHD as the way that their brain works, as their out of box programming, and
Uh-huh.
not as like a character flaw or a moral failing or anything like that, then what is going to happen next is progress. The same thing for the non ADHD partner. There has to be full acceptance on both sides. And
Right.
acceptance does not mean excuse. Okay. It means explanation,
Uh-huh.
that we are now explaining what is happening within our body so that we
Mhm.
can decide if we want to stay here or if we want to morph it or work on making something else work. And in finding out about my own ADHD, I've always been into personal development, but my progress as a person, as a mother, as a professional, as somebody serving in my church, as a community member, as all these things
Uh-huh.
has amplified in all the ways, not necessarily because of my ADHD, but now I understand myself. And when
Mhm.
we understand ourselves, we show up true. We show up more honest. We show up more willing and confident, more loving and more open and less defensive. And then I get to really hone in on my natural skills and talents, and I'm able to be less distracted by others' perception of me if I'm running a little bit behind, or if maybe I have more put my foot in my mouth moments.
Uh-huh.
There's more forgiveness and kindness and compassion for myself and, my loved ones and my clients in that position. That's good for everyone.
Yes.
Absolutely
Uh-huh.
good for everyone. And once again, going back to that yin yang idea, man, when we are holding ourselves so confidently and honestly with someone else who trusts us to do that and they do that for themselves,
Mhm.
it's the most liberating, incredible experience in sex and intimacy and all the conversations and communion that happens in the middle as well.
Love that. That is so good. That's great. What a great uplifting message. I hope
Good.
everyone listening to that
I hope
walks away
so.
from this like there's nothing unsolvable. There's nothing we
No.
can't overcome here. There's goodness to be had.
Yeah, and the more honest that we are with ourselves about that, the quicker or the more deep or the more substantial, fulfilling, I guess the word I'm looking for, the more fulfilling our relationships will be.
That's so good. Great, great. All right. We're going to switch gears a little bit before we leave.
Okay?
I studied martial arts for a lot of years.
Excellent.
And the idea that black belt is no much different than just the same fundamentals you do as, a white belt. It's
Yeah,
just a
sure.
lot more refined. It's next level. It's the same move, but it's very much more refined. And
I see
I
where
like
we're going. I see where we're
yeah,
going
yeah, yeah.
here.
But I like this idea with black belt sex tips, and this is why I ask some of
Okay.
my guests for their black belt sex tip.
Yeah.
And it might be a technique, it might be like an idea, like go to Disneyland with lingerie. Those are all great black belt
Yeah.
sex tips. But I want to hear what your black belt sex tip would be.
Every 2 or 3 years, I get together with a group of 10 of my best friends that we met
Uh-huh.
in college,
Uh-huh.
and it's all of us women, and we all happen to be married with kids,
Uh-huh.
and I brought this one up 5 or 6 years ago, and they gasped, and I was like, "Why are you gasping?" So I'm only sharing it not because I don't think it's normal, but because I thought it was normal, but they didn't consider it,
Uh-huh.
and that's going to get waxed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, go get waxed if you're a guy or a girl. Go get waxed. It ups the sensory, your nerve endings are so much more
Alive.
accessible,
Yep.
and
Uh-huh.
it creates a whole different sensation and experience in sexual intimacy. So, absolutely, it shouldn't be a weird thing. When I got married, I didn't even consider doing that, and
Uh-huh.
so it became something different. Now, like, my sisters and stuff, they're like, "Yeah, that's a normal thing."
Uh-huh.
But I do wonder if, like, a lot of women, especially more conservative women, have never done that, and I would
Uh-huh.
say, "Go to a professional, please."
Uh-huh.
You don't want a million ingrown hairs, but it is wonderful. It's wonderful for everyone involved.
Great. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Great tip. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So where can people go to learn more about you, your ADHD coaching, and your podcast and things like that?
Of course. CamdenADHDcoaching.com is my website. There you can access everything. I am the host of The Busy Brained Saint, which is an ADHD podcast with Faith in the center. And it's really joyful. And we talk a lot about ADHD through the context of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You can find me on Instagram at The Busy Brained Saint and Kamden_ADHD.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So much fun today.
Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode's been meaningful for you, even if you don't, identify with having all of the symptoms that she talked about with ADHD. But the principles are about learning how to communicate really well together, pushing yourself to grow as a couple. I haven't met a couple who has a thriving sexual relationship that's not really pushing themselves in one way or another to grow, either personally or as a couple. And that's why I invite you to check out all of the resources we have at Get Your Marriage On. I have a very special resource I want to save to the end to tell you about. We have a program that we call Next Level. It's for couples, and it's a coaching program coupled with a community, coupled with a really in-depth course on how to build more intimacy and a thriving sexual relationship in your marriage. And all those details are on our website, getyourmarriageon.com/program. And for listeners of this podcast, we're giving you a 30 days free access. So you can check out the whole program. You can even get free coaching from our expert coaches and apply these things in your marriage and see what benefits it gives you, all free for 30 days. So that's getyourmarriageon.com/program. We have a lot of fun bonuses too when you sign up. So be sure not to miss that. Again, thank you for listening. Go share this podcast with your married friends. I promise they'll thank you for life. And now it's your turn to go get your marriage on.